As I was replaying my way through Resident Evil 3, I found myself filling in the gaps in my memory of what happened in-game and in what order. Not only did I find that my memory from 1999 is impeccable, I mean, who honestly has trouble remembering yesterday, let alone 21 years ago? But I also found that it was easy to walk yourself in circles in this game unless you live by the map that you could view from your inventory. This would explain the night sweats I still wake up drenched in from the nightmares I have of walking around the same city block for multiple hours straight, because I was too young and dumb to remember to look at the map for guidance. Even playing this game with my hyper-advanced adult intelligence, I found myself going in circles for at least one loop, before realizing I missed the door I needed to enter that was tucked in a corner just out of view thanks to the dank locked camera angles. I will say that the game is designed to have areas be revisited to the player's benefit though. Such examples could be seen everywhere, from the zombies busting out of car doors that you walked by harmlessly before in the streets that reveal items for the player to pick up, all the way to the beginning of the game where our box friend meets the very fate he was trying to avoid by locking himself in the storage crate. But Dario's fate leads to our gain, as inside the crate is a good stash of gunpowder that we can use to craft more pew-pew. When backtracking after we acquire the fire hose and put out the fire blocking our path to the sales office, we find a crank that can only be used on a door you walk past very early on in the game just for the sake of more boom boom. The point is, this game wants you to move backwards at times to give you more resources to move forward with, not just to sidetrack you. Here on the HorrorScoped channel, we do deep dives in the game mechanics, trying to see what kind of strange and unusual things we can get to occur in-game when we break the order of sequences.
Carlos.
Jill, listen very carefully.
Or when we apply the blackest magic put to practice that lets us go beyond what the game was meant to have happen. If you enjoy this type of content, be sure to check out the other videos on the channel, and let's push forward into the unknown. My initial goal with Resident Evil 3 was to see if I could skip chunks of the game simply by just avoiding areas and walking into the next section. While normally to enter these other doors leading to new areas, the game requires either a key or a sequence to occur before you can move on. But the quote-unquote magic lets us enter any door as if there were some sort of all doors unlocked cheat engaged. With this in mind, I found my first sequence break that doesn't actually let me move forward in the game. Rather, it traps me in a never-ending loop until I follow the sequence the game has planned for me. So, enter the police station. Rather, not enter it. The door leading into the next area beyond our old Resident Evil 2 stomping grounds leads us into an alley that then takes us to the restaurant area of the game. But when we enter this door without having witnessed the Nemesis cinematic or entering the police station, something very interesting happens. When the next area loads, the boutique music is playing and the boutique layout is loaded. Not the alley that we should be in, but something isn't right. As we walk forward, we see our character outside of the boutique layout, not inside of it, and there's some sort of barrier keeping us from moving forward into the building. We are free to run around as if we're in a large space. Jill's footsteps can be heard getting closer and farther away, and I eventually start using the rocket launcher as a form of echolocation to find my way back into the view of the boutique. As I walked around, I found a point where the camera angle would switch, and I would have view of the changing rooms for the various Jill outfits, and as I continued to move around, I noticed myself clipping through the walls from time to time. I was still unable to move into the center of the room. I could only go around the area, it seemed. But as I was walking along the changing rooms, smashing the interaction button, the game prompted me to change my outfit. I changed my outfit, and lo and behold, this put me in the boutique. When I check the map, you can see where I go in at and where the game teleports me to. Dumbfounded by this discovery, I promptly ran back to the door by the police station where I originally entered and went back in. The boutique layout was before me again, and I found myself in the same situation as before. Now this time though, I spent a lot more time running around in the Shadow Realm trying to interact with whatever was in the Beyond. The only thing I found out there though was a loss of character model, as when I decided to try and restart the scenario, Jill's model was reduced to only a shadow, which can be seen moving around the boutique floor. At this point, I reloaded the game and set from my original point to go abyss spelunking some more. I don't know what made me think to look, but while traversing the ethereal plane, I decided to whip out my trusty map. To my surprise, as I moved through the nothingness, my character moved on the map. This is when I understood what was happening. I was behind the game moving around in the physical space of its entirety, but for whatever reason, the game defaulted to loading the layout for the boutique area. Using my newly discovered shadow compass, I maneuvered myself around the map trying to interact with other doors, hoping to get some sort of response. I even moved to the door where I originally entered and tried interacting with it, but no other interactions could be made. I think this is because the game was loading the boutique area, so only the triggers that could occur in that space were what I could interact with. My next decision was to see if I could half manipulate the sequences to see if I could still skip the police station altogether, or at least a little bit. So, I killed Nemesis and went to see if I could move forward. I loaded into the boutique area still. I went into the police station and gathered the gemstone needed to get past the gate, but I still ended up behind the map when I went back out and entered the door to bypass the station. What changes the sequence from the police station is gathering the lockpick, which triggers the radio to go off where we first hear Carlos. Once these moments have occurred, we can then move into the alley and further into the game. From here on in, there really isn't another moment till later where we can simply go through a door and skip areas of the game. At this point it becomes a fetch and gather for the trolley car that we used to get to the clock tower. You can have certain things end up in other places, like the other gem can be either in the restaurant or at the press office depending on which location you go to first. Also, depending on where the first visit is, this will determine where we first meet Carlos. I continued through the game as normal, looking for my next skip opportunity. It came when I got to the clock tower. After parkouring off of the trolley, I walked into the clock tower and began moving through it. I already knew there was a key requirement at the top of the tower, where I needed the clock tower key to unlock the ladder leading up to the bell tower, and the Chronos key to get one of the gears to activate the bell in the clock room, which meant I only needed to get the gears to get the tower going. After kicking the bell and acquiring the first gear, I walked upstairs to the bell tower. And just like I thought, the ladder was down, which allowed me to climb up to the top to activate the bell, skipping all the other rooms and nonsense required to get through this area. The Nemesis fight at the bottom of the ladder held an interesting result though. Nemesis's Hermes Madison quilted lambskin trench coat went full expecto patronum on me and activated cloaking mode. So, tossing the cable in the pool of water was just a show of force at the end of the day. Can you imagine if there was an enemy like Nemesis in-game, but it was completely invisible? I'm not talking Resident Evil 4 invisible bugs. I'm talking complete ghosts that still makes the footstep noises and everything else as it closes in on you. Yeah, I'm getting clammy too just thinking about it. After we put Nemesis down in the courtyard is when the real fun starts though, with our sequence breaking. When we play as Carlos, we move through the hospital section of the game, and that's normally the only time we have is this stud. When we leave the clock tower after mansplaining the heavy bell out of our way, we walk into a street that can take us to the hospital to the north or the park to the south. But, as many of you know, I like magic. So, I'd like to show you a trick. You see that hospital in the back there? I'm going to make it disappear. Now, watch closely, and presto, the hospital is gone. Now from here, things just keep getting weirder and weirder. If we go back into the clock tower and head in the direction where Jill is, we run into another moment where the game loads the area, but we end up behind the world. At the foot of the steps leading up to the second level, we disappear, but can hear our footsteps as we move across the floor here. The dead mercenary's body can be interacted with, but our goal is to get to the door on the other side. So, with the help of our shadow compass, we do just that. When we get to the altar room, we find Jill is gone. Cool. As we go to leave, the sequence that happens when we first enter this area before the helicopter crash and before our fight with Nemesis occurs, and pushes us farther into the break hole. When we leave the room, the windows have magically fixed themselves, and if we proceed into the main hall, everything has been returned to its unbroken state. No fires or rubble to be found anywhere, and if we head into the main courtyard outside, the helicopter is gone and the yard is back to its pre-helicopter crash state. If we go back up to the top of the tower now, the bell starts ringing again and it's Groundhog Day. The game doesn't like this too much and crashes not long after we get to the bottom of the ladder. After loading back up the game, I decided to take a different path, and instead of going to the hospital, I go into the park instead. Now normally we would be in this area as Jill, but this is Carlos's time to shine. From here, we can go to the fountain and drain the water, which takes us to the sewer, allowing us to go to the cabin. Now this is no Leon and Lewis dumping ballistics kind of cabin, but it would lead to a boss fight if we had a lighter to burn the wood in the fireplace. But because we're Carlos and not Jill, we don't have the sacred flame required to remove this obstacle. Thus, we just proceed on, as we don't need the key we get in that side room anyways to get out of the park, effectively cutting out the gravedigger fight. We didn't need to come to the cabin at all, to be honest. I just wanted an excuse to say cabin for all of you. Cabin, cabin, cabin. Cabin, cabin, cabin. Now, before we get to the factory, we get to experience what it's like to have Jill's voice coming out of Carlos's character model, as Nemesis attacks us on the bridge.
No! Carlos.
Jill, listen very carefully. The explosion will be powerful enough to destroy everything.
Are you sure about that?
Positive.
From here, it doesn't matter which route we take, as both paths forward in the game lead to a Carlos on Carlos interaction, be it down in the sewer where he saves us from a bunch of zombies, or in the office up top where he warns us about the missile strike. We have Carlos conversing with himself. My favorite Carlos/Jill moment is when we confront Nikolai on our way to the Nemesis trash fight, as it just cracks me up hearing this Jill dialogue coming from Carlos.
You're still wandering around.
Nikolai?
So, you want to get out of here alone? Is that your plan?
I made certain none of the other supervisors survived.
Then why kill me? I'm not on their payroll.
They want you eliminated for reasons of their own.
That's great. Except I have no intention of contributing to your retirement fund.
We can get through the fight with Nemesis in two different ways. One is the normal acid bath way, which leads to the acquisition of the Umbrella keycard. But when we take this way, I can't get the game to load past the shutter door that we open that leads to the final fight with mutated Nemesis as the game freezes up. The other way is just annihilating Nemesis with a rocket launcher, which causes the game to soft lock, but keeps the clock running down until the time is up, which ends up killing us. So, it's a win-win. This brings us to the end of our sequence-breaking journey. Have you had anything crazy happen while playing this game or any other Resident Evil game for that matter? Let me know in the comments down below, as I look forward to hearing from you. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and keep your eyes on the lookout for the next installment, as there's plenty more madness to be had. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon.